we go through that every time. Yes, I can hear us.
Oh, Daddy, Daddy.
Stop.
Oh my gosh.
We haven't even started yet.
Daddy want pie.
Sorry. That's so unbecoming.
Yeah, I think that maybe you should just kick off the music. That was plenty enough. Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to the Funky Panther, coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas. We've got such a fun show for you today. I mean, we're seriously all kind of jittery, stoked, excited about our guest here today.
A bit nervous.
A little nervous, yeah. Sage, you want to say hey?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody.
So we'll get into it. I'm Chad.
I'm Javier.
And I'm Tim.
And we are
The Funky Panther!
That was really fast. That was
Yeah.
really fast. I don't know how I felt about that. That was really fast.
Sounded great.
It did.
It sounded awesome.
We kind of rushed it. I don't know.
Well, you already said it. We're nervous.
True, we're fucking nervous, man. This is all kinds of nuts.
Yeah. So we have got a really cool guest on today. Sage is here with us today, and it's kind of a weird deal. I kind of want to talk about how we got to this point. A couple episodes ago on Gobble Gobble, Javier and I were talking about some loose leaf, was it CBG, right? Yeah, that we got from the Thrive Apothecary, from a local farmer and business owner here in the DFW area. And so we were just talking about it, and no big deal. We didn't reach out to him or anything like that. And then literally a week later, Sage hits us up on social media. Had not listened to the episode yet.
Not even you guys were not even on my radar. I just
Just
somehow,
like so many other people that listen, we were never on their radar. We're not on anybody's
and
radar.
and not because of any reason. It's just like this weird. I was like, you know what? For some reason, I think these guys would be really receptive of me
Well, you were
wanting. I'm
dead
forcing
right.
myself upon their podcast, and I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. Then you and I think we had like a 15-minute chat. It went, really well. And we're like, all right, well, let's just have you on next Tuesday. You are open, we're open,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
here we are.
And
So-
it's funny because whenever we got the message, I was like, Chad, talk to him. Like,
Why is it Chad that had to talk to me?
because it's Chad. He's the brains.
Okay, you're right. My bad.
If it were me, I'd be like, yeah, I like it. This is
is
so
great.
cool.
Well,
you wouldn't have been here.
I think
No.
I think it's because
Sage is a big guy.
Chad's got that whole communications thing. I mean, that's what he does for a living.
Absolutely.
That's his job.
And my dumb ass, without looking at the text messages because we have our group message, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna click on this. I'm like,
We're like,
took
don't
a
leave him,
screenshot. I was like, look what this dude. And they already talked about it. And he's
don't
like,
leave him on red. Like,
So
He'll break up with us.
that's exactly right. So all three of us manage our social media, so we've all got the same login. So when someone messages us on any of the Funky Panther social media accounts out there, all three of us get it at the same time.
Okay.
And so you never really know who's responding. Sometimes we'll say, oh, it's Chad here, and sometimes we won't. But yeah, so we all got it at the same time. We were all equally stoked whenever you reached out. So yeah, awesome. So now that we got that out of the way,
Intro's gone.
Sage, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm the vice president of a up-and-coming hemp company called Texas Hemp Cultivators, and I produce organic hemp grown in Texas. I come from a background of agriculture where I grew in controlled environments, producing leafy greens, herbs, and microgreens for commercial food distribution. And local chefs and restaurants like Magdalena's by Juan Rodriguez,
Yes.
Shinjuku Station.
Oh, yeah.
A couple like little food trucks every now and again, and mostly for Fresh Point Brothers and those large food distributors. My whole goal when I was actually prior to getting in the cannabis space was growing the best food possible that's the most nutrient dense and just giving it to the community. Fort Worth, Tarrant County, Parker County, and Dallas when I had the chance.
so that means that I've definitely had some of his leafy greens.
No doubt.
Or microgreens, yeah.
Oh,
If
no
I went
doubt.
to Shinjuku, it's easy for me to say.
Shinjuku, yeah.
Dude, I love that place. That place is awesome.
Yeah, it's really
Absolutely,
good.
yeah, and especially Juan Rodriguez. He had this dinner and supper club that really embraced what I was doing. So I was growing a lot of things to spec, and so what that means is essentially when you grow food to spec, you've got to really adhere to the standards to get paid.
Magdalena's,
all-
right?
it's-
Magdalena's?
yeah.
And wasn't he on a
Chopped.
Yeah, that's right. He was on Chopped. Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome. So I haven't had a chance to eat at Magdalena's.
I've wanted to
Yeah.
go
Oh,
try the Supper
guys,
Club.
guys, I'm telling you,
Okay.
it's a place like if you wanna go have a really nice intimate dinner with the people that are around you because you're elbow to elbow, and I don't know, this is pre-COVID times.
You're right.
Elbow to elbow, and you're really talking about the food. You're putting your phone away. You're enjoying your company. You have good wine, BYOB, BYO tequila, or Modelo,
That's awesome, yeah.
or whatever. The idea is like he was really receptive to the farm to table thing with me.
Right.
He really expressed that with the microgreens and the leafy greens and the lettuces and the vegetables that I brought over to him. And that's what kind of was my platform. I was like, man, I want to get into food. I want to get into growing, and commercial food pays the bills.
Yeah.
But what pays the heart, what pays the community is giving it to chefs and letting them thrive with that. So
That's really cool.
That's pretty legit. I mean, how many other farms are doing that kind of thing in the area? Do you even know?
Oh gosh, I keep tabs on some farms, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, there's one farm that unfortunately, through my expanse in the cannabis, I've lost like touch with
Yeah.
being able to follow like what's happening in the food world. But I can tell you, Profound Micro Farm in McKinney is crushing it on the food space. Last time I left it,
Interesting.
Jeff Bednar is a gentleman up there in North Texas, and he supplies a close knit community of restaurateurs and foodies with his produce, and it's hats off to him. Like if I wasn't in the cannabis space, I'd be doing exactly what he's doing and feeding people that way.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So that's a really cool background on you a little bit. Something else we like to do here on the Funky Panther is what we call the Funky Five, where we're just going to ask you some like rapid fire questions, okay? And we didn't line this up for you. Are you a little stressed?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very stressed.
It's gonna
Well,
be
I mean,
great.
it's not too crazy. It's
No,
you
it's
know,
not that
it's
bad.
just basic questions for you. You know.
Yeah, we're gonna have you
So-
do like
Says-
trigonometry.
Well,
and
says the guy that you guys have deemed as wild card. It says it's not easy, or it says it's easy. I don't think it's going to be easy.
Yeah, he doesn't know. So
I don't know.
so like if I was going to say, "Hey Sage,
Hey, that koozie, Javier.
oh,
Sorry
yeah,
for
here
interrupting.
you
No, you're
I just
good.
don't want my beer to be warm.
what is your favorite color?"
Blue.
Whoa.
Ironic because
Look
you would
how
think it'd be
quick that
green.
was. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
With the conversation we're going to have. Yeah, for sure. So that was just one of them. No, that wasn't one of the five. So
Oh, what? That's it? That was
a freebie.
All right, thanks. I'm warmed up.
favorite restaurant in Fort Worth?
Oh, wow. Okay, let me give this a ponder really fast. You know what? I've got to say that my favorite restaurant in Fort Worth has to be, and this is just because I'm partial to one dish that they have there.
Yeah.
Salsa limon.
Really?
Yeah, the mocha bowl is like, it's simple, but it's a perfect, almost like a home style feeling that I get. And yeah, I gotta say it's salsa limon.
You know, I'll tell you what. I've had everything there, but I've never had that.
You're missing out.
I don't know why.
More for me.
I'm
Well,
definitely.
I'm a glutton, so I have to have the huge burrito.
Oh,
Dude, their
gosh.
burritos are
Thick and
ridiculous.
girthy. It's
Yeah.
thick and girthy.
Yeah, those burritos that, and I say this with the utmost, they slap. With the utmost respect. They're very good. They're very good.
They're fire.
And,
It's straight
and
fire.
that's what
fire.
that's what the cool kids say.
Yes.
They're
I
fire.
fucks with their burritos.
That burrito is lit.
Is that still thing Liddy?
I don't know.
I hope
Kids
not.
say Liddy? Is that a
I
thing?
hope that died.
I've been hearing shook a lot recently.
Shook?
That burrito's got
I'm
me shook.
shooketh.
Burrito's got me shook.
But the bowl is not a burrito, though. It's
a-
essentially a deconstructed. You can get your own tortilla, bring your own tortilla type of scenario. But it's a pickled cabbage
BYOT.
with a really awesome refried bean, and then I always do the barbacoa because
Yeah.
that's like, in my opinion, a
The
great
barbacoa's
spice,
good.
really good flavor,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's my favorite restaurant in Fort Worth.
Dude, that's
Gosh,
awesome.
There's just so many. So that's
Side question for you, though.
okay.
Side
Sure.
question.
Not a part of the five.
Not a part of the five.
Thank you.
See, this is the wild card coming out.
Is this if there was one food where you can infuse like CBD into, what would it be?
Okay. All right. This is a really great vendor from the Clear Fork Farmers Market. Her name is Lindsay, and she makes Sweet Lucy's pies.
Okay.
Let me just go ahead and say, like, if I could infuse any of my cannabis into her pies, absolutely, because she knocks out a bourbon pecan pie that's outrageous.
that sounds
A sweet
amazing.
potato pie that's outrageous. A lemon meringue pie that's outrageous. And let's just say, like, a sweet tooth is kind of like a way to my heart. Absolutely, Sweet Lucy's pies
Nice.
with cannabis.
My
So
mouth
awesome.
watered.
We gotta check
My
that
mouth
place
is
out.
watery.
Yeah,
I shit you
and
not.
she's great. She collaborated with another local. So you guys obviously know the Hot Box Chicken Club.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
She does their desserts, their pies.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
So it's called Sweet Lucy's, and yeah, if I can do anything and get some of my hemp into her awesome desserts,
We'll tag her. We'll
Yeah.
tag her
Oh,
in
yeah.
this.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
for
so
sure.
cool.
So next question.
Yeah, that was 1A. Thanks.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Favorite drinking spot, and it doesn't have to be Fort Worth, but like in the local area.
Okay. Great question. Another awesome question. I really I enjoy Proper.
Yeah.
And you want to
Me
know
too,
why?
yeah.
Because it's a treat when you go there, and it's intimate enough. Like where Lisa and Phil, they're the owners there. They're absolutely amazing, and they've kept this vibe going ever since they opened it. While you can be intimate, but like it's almost a communal setting when you're in there. Like you enjoy a beverage, people will like talk about it, and be like, oh, I enjoy that, or if you like this, you like that, and so that's a really cool craft cocktail space to really enjoy it. But gosh. Yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
it.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
And you hit it right on the head. Like you don't go there all the time, but when you do, like
Yeah.
it's a treat. Like you're doing it for a reason, and you want a nice cocktail or a beverage or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
I think we brought Proper up like several episodes ago.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. Really, really good spot. Okay, favorite local musician.
Oh gosh, I have to say my favorite local musician is Dustin Massey, because he is such a talented musician, and he's playing regularly at Magnolia, but I know he has a show December 18th, and I'm not sure where it's at, but I've just seen it on my feed. But Dustin's a really talented musician. Black-Hearted Woman, one of his singles, is outrageous. Dude can shred on the guitar.
Yeah.
Long, beautiful hair, so he's really like this commanding presence on the stage, and he happens to be like, I don't know, 6'5". So it's absolute, just utter not fair crap. when he walks
He's
through
an
the room.
Adonis.
Thank goodness he has a girlfriend, really beautiful girlfriend, because man, it takes a lot of people off the table when he walks in the room. It's BS. But I gotta say, Dustin Massey is probably my favorite musician, just based on his songwriting skill, and dude shreds.
Yeah.
Dude shreds.
So where in
kind of music?
Magnolia? So where in Magnolia is he playing?
Oh, excuse me, Magnolia Motor Lounge.
Motor Lounge.
And that's
Yeah.
his regular spot. He
Nice.
crushes that stage, and I know, man, I wish I knew off the top of my head. December 18th, he's playing a show as like a kind of like as a Christmas fundraiser, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of what's happening. I think it's a 3-day show. I'm going to be going, obviously. But yeah, that's my favorite Fort Worth musician. And
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What type of music does he play?
So I would call it more Americana, with like soul. Like he's not gonna play, like there's not gonna be any jazz, but he's got essentially it's a bassist, a second guitarist, and keyboards and drummer. So full band kit, I believe, is what they would call that in the
Yeah.
business. And super talented.
So I just looked them up. Genres that are on, and this is on bands in town: Red Dirt, Americana, Blue Eyed Soul, and Southern Soul.
Gosh, you know what? I didn't read that. I'm glad I got most of it right. I feel
Very
great.
good,
I
yeah.
feel great. Thank you. Now, hey,
Nailed
thanks,
it.
Dustin, if you're watching this. You're welcome.
Okay, so next, what's your favorite hobby?
Oh gosh. Okay. My favorite hobby, the thing that's great about agriculture and working in the space where you're growing in season is it gives you a little bit of downtime. It gives you a month to either plan or do something you really enjoy. And I'd say like art, in the sense of creating like canvas art or
Yeah.
doing photography, is probably my favorite hobby.
Nice.
You'll catch me, and the reason why I like Dustin's music so much is because I'll take a lot of photos of him, because I've done like a year of actually traveling and doing photos for like Texas lifestyle and doing professional photography like that. And so I think it'd be art and photography would be my hobby.
Nice.
I did
Yeah.
a little deep dive in your Instagram.
Say what?
Yeah.
What?
And I was
Come
I
again?
did
Come
I did a
again?
little
Sure,
deep
what'd you
dive.
got? What'd you got?
And dude, your photos are freaking awesome. Like
you.
some of those pictures that you threw out there were great. And then I saw that you went to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at the date or anything like that, but I too just got back from the Grand Canyon. What, like 3 weeks ago? I think
Yeah,
it was.
real recent.
Point.
Oh
Did you
yeah.
pick that one up?
Yes. Like that's the best way to sum it all up. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is magnificent. It's just so cool.
I have to say, like, my favorite point of that trip, besides the photography, I took a really great raven picture that I'm super proud of. But the Grand Canyon itself, like, when you go to places like that, it just reminds you, like, how small we are and how
Yeah.
insignificant we are, in the sense of, like, this was all water at some point. This isn't water anymore. How long was that? And then you're like, obviously longer than the 60 years I'll be here.
Oh yeah.
And that's remarkable, and it makes you feel great, because not only are you exerting yourself. I went down to the base and back, and let me tell you, it was exhilarating, and I
Yeah.
was exhausted, and I drank probably 13 beers when I got back.
I'm sure.
Got back to Phoenix, but like, no, the point is like those moments really make who you are. They make it a good experience. in
That's
this whole
awesome.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and things like that you can't always capture in picture form, right? Like just being there and experiencing. Like I don't know how many pictures I've seen of the Grand Canyon, and they're beautiful. Like it's hard to take a bad picture, but it just never does justice to the Grand Canyon. You know what I mean? And things like that. It's just, it's cool to experience.
Yeah, heck yeah.
All right, last one.
Number 5.
Yeah, and this one's kind of a weird one. So if you're watching TV or kind of perusing through the channels, what is one movie that if it's on, you just stop and have to watch it? It doesn't matter what it is, but you just stop and you're like, all right, I guess I'll be doing this for the next couple hours.
Ugh, this is going to be revealing because I don't watch a lot of TV, so I'm going to go to like my top 15 of movies.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. You're gonna go through the whole 15?
No, I'm not going to go the whole 15. We don't have enough time.
No, we do.
No, we don't.
We have so many things to talk to you about.
So many things to talk about. We haven't even got to the technical stuff yet. Gosh, if I'm just perusing or I'm scanning for something, there's like 2 movies I'm always drawn to, and it depends on the season. Let's say it's winter. Let's say it's second half of the year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch In Bruges. With
Oh
Colin
yes.
Farrell. I'm gonna watch that movie because it's more. It's kind of it's like the Die Hard of like Christmassy movies.
Yeah.
It's not a Christmas movie, but it's indirectly a Christmas movie.
Right.
And if it's another time, first half of the year, man, I'm really drawn to essentially the film There Will Be Blood because it's like this really. It's an entrepreneurial spirit, but in a dark, like crazy
Right.
way. And I kind of have I'm drawn to those films.
Okay.
You know, it's an artistic
Very
expression.
cool.
Yeah. So.
Of course, the farmer takes his movies in a seasonal approach. Like,
In a weird approach too.
Do you,
it's
like look at the moon phases too
yeah,
with it? Or?
I do. You know what? I look and I go, you know what? What a quarter.
it's
What a
about
quarter moon.
time for that one.
I haven't revisited Daniel Day-Lewis in complete character in the 1920s.
How often do you say I drink your milkshake? Like if
Oh,
somebody,
you know,
and you gotta do the.
I'm waiting. So like when I'm a mogul in this industry, I will be saying that to people. Just the exact
Yes,
same meaning.
yes,
Like
yes.
in my bowling alley by myself after my deaf son leaves me, and I'll be directly saying to a preacher,
Oh, man.
"I drink your milkshake."
Hopefully, you don't bludgeon him with a pin.
Don't rule that out, though.
One does not rule that out.
It's the limitless possibilities.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Great. That is.
Did I
fucking
cover
amazing.
them? Did I cover them?
You did it. You did a great job,
Congratulations.
too. That was
Thanks,
awesome.
Tim.
Appreciate you.
Tim.
Yeah,
Children. bring
where's the
out.
children? Where's the children?
I don't
Oh
know.
my gosh, there's children? What are you talking about?
Come out of the dungeon, kids.
There's the kiddos. They're back.
The creepy ass.
So yeah,
Children of the Corn, I think it's what it sounds like.
yeah, really.
that's really what it is.
Man, tell us about this beer real quick.
Yeah, you brought us
Oh.
some beer.
Yeah, so this was going to come up at any given point. So this is a brewery that's out of North Ocean Hills, and you know I'm gonna keep this on the hush hush. But let me just say, this brewery will release one of the first organic hemp beer collaborations in Texas. And let me tell you, Dominique and the guys over here are about to come up with something great, and it has something to do with my farm.
And that's awesome.
It's amazing.
But this is a single hop series, Strata, which is a kind of a citrus forward hop. It's a New England style IPA, and you know what? I'm glad I got to share it with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks
appreciate
again for
you bringing it, and
Absolutely.
then a bunch of hemp as well.
Oh yeah, and so I also brought this this hemp that we grew on the farm, and the reason why I'm here, it's essentially CBG hemp. That's it's called cannabigerol. It's essentially a molecule that's expressed in the plants that we grew, and it's certified organic, which that's why I have this beautiful tin. It's another thing that I'm really proud to have. Probably one of the only Texas farmers that has a CCOF USDA organic certification. And yeah, I guess that's what we're gonna get into. I think.
Yeah, so stoked.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many things that we don't know that we want to talk about that we're so interested in learning from you.
Sure.
Yeah, because we brought this up, several episodes ago, talking about just, are you proud to be a Texan? And
If you're calling back, that's episode 14.
Episode
by the way.
14, okay.
Yeah, snacks on snacks episode. We talk about are you proud to be a Texan?
and we talked about the whole climate of hemp in Texas, and not just hemp, but just the cannabis market, and if we'd ever go full legalization and whatnot. And by we brought this up earlier, by whatever we got Sage here.
Serendipitous.
Serendipitous.
Serendipitous was the word I
And
used, yeah.
We're all like super excited to hear kind of like what got you I guess, involved in industrial hemp and the growth of hemp and all that.
Okay, absolutely. So as I touched on earlier, producing food is kind of what I like nourishing people. And nourishing people can be in conversation, nourishing people can be in, interactions. But I found that my greatest contribution to that was growing things for people, seeing their interactions at the farmers market, seeing the chefs' interactions, even growing for Fresh Point was actually a breath of fresh air for them. Because I don't know if you guys have been to a commercial warehouse. It's like the soul sucked out of every single person in that place.
Absolutely.
And when you're a farmer delivering your own produce and they figure that out, they'll be like, oh my gosh, there's life here. Like they get it. Like things click on and people understand. It's like, man, like there's actually a world out there where people grow things and it's not just in boxes or shipped anonymously from a different country.
Someone actually, like, you can see, like, someone's putting their heart and soul into whatever they're giving you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the food production, I carried that into the food, and I was really lucky to have a team behind me that they allow me to do that. And my partner and I, when we started this endeavor, obviously, we were growing in a 1 acre greenhouse that did hydroponics. What do you think the first question was, like in the local town of Aledo, Texas?
Do you grow weed?
Hey, do you guys grow weed out of that place? No, we don't grow weed. And my answer always back before I get into actually answering why that we transitioned to this was, is it legal? No. Why would we do that? Why would I risk the infrastructure that I built? Why would I risk the credentials and the ability to do something that I know will come if I'm patient?
Right.
And so 2015, Tech Select LLC started. And John Tate, my partner, and I, we had a mission to grow good food for DFW. Fast forward to 2018, the Farm Bill passed. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the Farm Bill had underwriting that allowed for the decriminalization of industrial hemp as we know it.
Right.
Industrial hemp is anything that has below 0.30 THC percentage.
And that's specifically Delta 9?
It depends on the state.
Okay.
So this is now we're talking about the
Yeah,
United
yeah.
States of
Okay.
America and everybody's freedom as a state to express and interpret the federal law
Gotcha.
however they
Right.
want.
Yeah.
Texas, unfortunately, did the total Delta 9,
Okay.
which is a major kick in the shin for Texans, which really was a hindrance to the CBD market. Let's fast forward from the passing of the bill and me and my partner unveiling the company Texas Hemp Cultivators. That company, as we set out our mission statement, was to grow organic seedlings, hemp clones, and genetics, breeding some of the best plants we can possibly breed for the public and for commercial growers as a whole. What we decided to do, ever since reading the underwriting in 2018, we decided to go obviously like we do. We want to get ahead of the market. Nobody was growing a CBG strain. We're lucky to be in the space, in the agriculture space, and then consult to some cannabis growers in Oregon and Washington and Virginia. We had some partners develop and help us hybridize this strain to essentially express 0 THC. So this product, the one that you see, it's CBG, and we call it the white because that's just the genetic variety that we called it. It's just like naming a German Shepherd a German Shepherd. It's a dog, but it's a different species of dog. We essentially named it the white, and it has an expression of 16.35% CBG, no THC. So as this CBD wave, which you've probably all been familiar with, passed and crashed, I'm going to say crashed, it's because plants were coming into Texas and they couldn't be compliant based on the total percentage of 0.3. We were like, okay, we're going to get ahead of this. We're going to grow CBG because this molecule, we believe, is going to make a huge difference in this industry. It's not just about the one CBD molecule. It's about growing a plant that is actually beneficial to people. So.
Did you know right off the bat that it wasn't going to have any THC in it, or did you have to? Because I know that, like looking back, there was questions of people starting a whole farm and starting to grow something they knew nothing about, right? And they were afraid that there might be THC in it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, and this is like one of the drawbacks about this industry, and I'm not saying this just because I'm going to toot my own horn. I'm saying this because I come from a background of agriculture. No. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. No, it's the hard part about this industry is there aren't people that are agricultural players where there's transparency. There's people that are fly-by-nighters is like what we've identified in the industry, and cowboys and pirates. What they'll do is they'll come in and say, you need to plant this many plants. You need to do it at this rate. This is how you set up your field. They'll sign them a contract, sending them hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of plants. And then after the plants come to full maturity, they have no contract to sell it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes 0 sense in agricultural business.
Yeah,
Right.
now what?
Yeah, exactly. Now what? And so what we decided is to do small. 3 acres is small, but it's actually a large scale at the same time. But we wanted to do it with utmost transparency. If you go to our website, or go to our Instagram.
You want to drop both of those real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is www.texashempcultivators.com, and the Instagram, Facebook is at Texas Hemp Cultivators. And you can see from seed to harvest everything that we did as a company to grow this crop without any of that fly-by-night, like, oh, it was brokered from a different state or brokered from a different place. It was grown here in Texas. It was grown using certified organic practices. And it was quite an experience, to say the least. But yeah, so guess I went on a tangent there.
No, that's perfect.
That's the
That's
whole
what
point
we
of
wanted.
this.
Oh, okay, cool.
Tangents galore.
Homegrown farm to table.
It is, and that's exactly it. It is homegrown, farm to table, using the same food practices that we did to produce lettuce, microgreens, and herbs. Yeah.
Do you expect? I know, like, this is all like we talked about before. It's coming into the scene. It's brand new. A lot of people are scared about it. Do you expect, like, restaurants or, like we were talking about earlier, like beverage companies? Like, I know up in Colorado and Seattle, they've had infused items. Do you expect to see more of infused growth with, like, food and other commodities that we have here in Fort Worth or Texas, period?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. And you want to know why? It's because we as hemp growers and producers have to be creative and figure out ways to make it easier for people to understand that education gap. So it's my job to explain from start to finish why this can be beneficial to you and why and how you can use these products. When I went to False Idol and pitched this, it's because I had an idea and they were open to collaborate. It's going to have to take Texans to be open to learning about something new that could be beneficial to their lives. And I think there's an education curve that we all have to observe and be more open to prior to letting cannabis not only become legal on a huge level here in Texas, but for places like Thrive to actually, no pun intended, thrive. Because, like, we need education platforms. And it's not just me. I'm very lucky to have this knowledge. I'm very grateful to have this knowledge. But we need more people advocating for it. It's more getting away from that THC, the negative stigma that is THC. THC will mess you up. It'll put you on the couch. It'll knock you out. It'll really inebriate you in a lot of ways. And this product that I grew, it's just all the medical benefits without the psychoactive additive of THC.
Which before you, like, bring anything up, like, I've been seeing before, like, a couple of, like, Viceland used to have a show called Weediget where they were talking about, like, cannabinoids and children with epilepsy, and that they would treat it with it, but with, like, THC. But, like, even without that, like, the benefits of CBD with that, or even, like, in cancer patients, and the fact that it's technically still classified as a Schedule 1.
Well, let me tell you, and this is the thing, I believe it was the CARE Act that just got passed this past Friday, is now the government's responding to what's been the outcry from the United States, is like, hey, this is not a Schedule 1 drug anymore.
Yeah.
This is benefiting people, and here's the reason why I grew CBG on another level. CBD and CBG are the same but different, right? They're both cannabinoids. They both have kind of the same pathway into the endocannabinoid system. The reason why I grew CBG, besides just the THC level of having none, while CBD has some, is because it has a higher uptake in your gamma receptors and your CB1 and CB2 receptors in your body. What that essentially means is that this molecule can turn into any molecule that the cannabis plant can produce. So when it goes into your system, it is more readily uptaken, and it goes into your brain, and it affects your anti-inflammatory response more effectively than CBD. And they're still doing studies on it, but anti-inflammatory response, your anti-anxiety response, it's boosted by putting this in your system.
So why are people, you see, I mean, like, obviously all of us have heard CBD, then why haven't we heard a whole lot about CBG?
Gosh, all right. It's just like my comparison to, and this might be a terrible comparison, it's just like, why haven't you heard of a hazy IPA until, like, last year?
They existed, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
right.
Exactly. It's just
and they were delicious.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a matter of just, we all have 24 hours in a day. And I'm very fortunate to be a farmer that researches this stuff. But CBD was essentially a molecule fad. CBG will be the same thing, but it's a molecule fad that literally is the mother of all cannabinoids that you can turn into any other cannabinoid. So I think that's going to be the one that sticks, in my opinion.
Got it. So it's got more of a future, realistically,
Absolutely.
right, than CBD.
Absolutely. CBD is just one aspect of a very, very, very diverse plant that we haven't even scratched the surface on yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we've probably got some people out there, and I know that we've heard from people that still think that kind of CBD, you mentioned it, has got this like weird bad stigma, right? People think that it's still weed. You might get high, you might not. Even if it's legal, it's probably bad. It's probably going to go back to illegal. Like, why is there that stigma, and how do we get past it?
Gosh. Well, first off, I think you have to eliminate the idea that a psychoactive molecule is in the plant. Once you eliminate that this is going to be a mind-altering plant, like we've been indoctrinated, like essentially, I don't know, the one DVD I'm really proud to own is Reefer Madness.
Yes.
Have you watched that movie all the way through?
Yes, I have.
It's propaganda. And it's great propaganda. It did a really good job of indoctrinating everybody to think like, oh my gosh, if I smoke the reefer, I'm going to murder.
Seriously?
And no,
Yeah.
really,
Oh,
that's how they shot it. They
Dude,
shot
I
the
want to
film.
go. I got to watch that.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You got to put that on your top 50 because that's cultural propaganda, and it's
Yeah.
American cultural propaganda, which is really rare to be like, oh my gosh, I actually see the veil through this one.
Yeah.
Because it's full circle. This year, 2020, like with all the ballots going for pro cannabis on states and like passing unanimously,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy to think that we've produced something like that in the United States, like something so absurd. But point being, once you get past the stigma of like, okay, it doesn't need to be just smoked. It can be ingested in a tincture. It can be ingested in a topical. It's an alternative to opioids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Those are the conversations that I have to have. And once you take away the ability, it has no THC. You're not going to get mind altered. You're just feeling all the benefits of the anti-inflammatory response and essentially what your body does when it builds up cannabinoids in your endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
And it's a positive response.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys study anthropology or read any books pertaining to...
I've never read a book. So.
Okay, all right. But it's reading books about the essentially the evolution of man, and cannabis is really intertwined.
Oh, yeah.
We're drawn to it. You guys need to come out to the farm and you interact with the plant.
Don't send me with a good time.
You guys will... It's crazy. You'll go to be like, man, this plant there's something alluring to it.
Yeah.
And it's a really basic, like, primordial feeling. And it's strange. I can't explain it.
Yeah. I was telling, I think we've talked about this before too, but like because of COVID, I started gardening, and it's not something I ever had the time of, to do before. And so started gardening, like, doing microgreens and different kinds of peppers and like growing things from seeds. Like I didn't start, I got a mango and I didn't toss the seed. I got an avocado. I was like, let me just see if I can grow them. You know what I mean? Let's just see what happens. And like seeing that happen and like, yeah, I did that. It's like, it's almost like a child, and you've got 3 full acres of your children.
Oh my gosh. All right. You want to get into the numbers real quick? I have 6,000 children in 3 acres, and then another, 3,800 in a 1 acre greenhouse.
Wow.
Christmas.
Yeah. It's crazy out there.
So cool.
Well, happy Dad's Day.
Oh gosh. None of them give me a present besides the awesome CBG flower that they produce. So yeah, they're producing something.
So with your greenhouse, are you doing like full on, like you see in the movies with the lights and grow lights and all that?
Yeah. So essentially, as we got into this space, we wanted to be a Texas grower. We wanted to do genetics. We want to be able to cross the cultivars that we've produced. We want to be able to continually express no THC and really good, like noses and floral aromas and terpene profiles.
Right.
So we built this 1 acre controlled environment greenhouse with one bay, which is our breeding bay, that has really amazing HPS lighting, which we can essentially simulate the sun with high density sodium lights, high pressure sodium lights that simulate the sun's plasma. It's insane.
That's awesome.
So we had that, and we're really lucky to be able to use this to continue our breeding and to grow winter stock and control the temperature and humidity for grows.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like that whole idea of like a grow house like that just intrigues me, because I mean, you see it in the movies and you see like the different things like that, and you never really know like what's all involved. I mean, when it comes to cannabis, in the United States itself, it's kind of one of those. It's still kind of it's hush hush, right?
It is.
And just recently in the past few years, we're really starting to get a lot of steam with it, but it's still that like kind of scary thing, and I can only imagine what your neighbors thought of whenever.
Oh my god!
Like So you've been world traveled, right?
Yeah.
And have lived in different places, and you come to Texas, and you get this farm, and and they're like, so what are you farming? And you're like, I'm doing all these microgreens, lettuce, and all this stuff. Oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna grow industrialized hemp. What?
Well, let me tell you, I'm really grateful to live in a nice community like Aledo, really close knit,
Yeah.
and kind of off the beaten path.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
for Fort Worthians who didn't want to live in Fort Worth, so it's kind of like how I feel like Aledo is a lot of the time. But it's
Yeah.
very much a close knit community. But I can tell you, when I first, when we first broke the project, and like we were saying hydroponics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That word is a direct gateway to those are no good, dirty hippies just growing pot out there.
Smoking their
but that's the thing, is
silly, funny grass.
Yeah,
It's a method.
Yeah, there's so
right?
much stuff like you.
exactly.
it's
It's
a method,
It's a
it's not a-
practice. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not like automatic. Like
So I had a friend of mine who was doing he was growing different vegetables and stuff using like I don't know what the technical term was, but it was with fish tanks.
aquaponics.
Aquaponics, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was doing all that stuff. So I mean, there it's a viable means
yeah.
of making a good product, right? And you
Absolutely.
and with the grow house or with the greenhouse and whatever, you have the ability to do that year round.
Exactly.
So it's just funny that like hydroponics. I remember growing up in school. Man, if you got some weed and it was hydro, like that was
true.
You got some dro or whatever. But I mean, were we really smoking dro? I don't know.
No, probably
You know?
not.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
but just
No,
go
no.
ahead and say like if
You're
you're a
probably-
13-year-old.
Yeah.
You're
Oh yeah,
probably
I got some dro.
Smoking marijuana dipped in embalming fluid. or something.
Ditchweed. That's
Yeah.
what you guys were smoking.
but it's just funny like that. How like it's funny and sad how like
He's
that
right.
is.
He's right.
Yeah. We were ripped off.
Yeah.
That's what it was. But it's funny how like it's just that term has such a negative connotation to it.
Oh, yeah.
But there's nothing negative about it whatsoever.
Gosh, now you're getting to the thought of like, what makes, all right, the question now is, what makes my organic certification any different? It's just a term,
Yeah.
but it's a term of practice.
Right.
And so I think the stigma with hydroponics is unfortunately built into the word.
Yeah.
Organic, and basically what I do on the farm, and we don't have to get into the details of the certification, but the idea is that stigma goes away because I'm working with nature. I create, pollinator sanctuary around my growing area. I use cover crops to restore the land. It's not like in hydroponics where it's quick turnover,
Right.
one in, one done, and just get it done as fast as possible. So I guess kind of to answer that question, it's more restorative when you go organic, and I guess hydroponic means more destructive regardless if you're growing cannabis or not.
That actually brings us up into a great segue into
What?
why is organic important to you,
okay.
you know?
Yeah. Wow. All right. Gosh.
Ooh, look at him. He's
Whoa. Doing the
Yeah.
segue.
Look at that. And now you'll call it out and so
It was an organic segue into
it was
organics.
it's
Here's
organic
a segue.
exception.
Didn't the guy in a Segway die on a Segway?
we talked about this. We brought it up in like a previous episode.
Oh,
somewhere.
okay. Wow.
Wait, didn't he fall off like a mountain
Fell
or
off a
something?
cliff on the Segway. Didn't build in front brakes.
Why are you laughing so hard?
because
I realized that he died, and I stopped laughing.
I had too much to drink so far.
Oh, and
Thought
here
we were
it
supposed to
goes.
cut him off already. Yeah.
He
But,
knows.
all right.
He
So
knows.
the reason why organic is so important is because it restores what you take out of it. Every crop you take out of the land, you degrade it.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
taking away
Yeah.
from the fertility of it. And the way I think of farming is, and this is a nut job way of thinking of it, the earth is like a living organism. You scrape off things, it needs to recover.
Yeah.
You harvest things, it needs to recover. We used our CCOF certification to give us a platform to essentially create a circular economy around the farm. I get local coffee grounds from Arcadia, from Vaquero Coffee, and from Roots Coffee House. I don't ferment them. I compost them over the winter season. I get dairy manure from a local dairy farm in Comanche, Texas. And I get essentially spent grains from different breweries throughout the Metroplex, and get spent grape pumice from a local vineyard in Burleson. And I create this local economy instead of shipping things in from different states, and create fertility and put it into the ground, grow it, and then put my cannabis crop on it, and then in turn give that back to the community to create this circular thing. That's what organic is. Anybody else is using salt-based fertilizers or nutrients that are shipped into the state and aren't sustainable. If you find ways to create fertility by taking other people's waste products and turning them into a valuable product like I have, you create that organic certification itself. And I'm lucky just to have the damn tin to represent it, you know. It's just nice to be able to like, okay, I'm taking one person's waste and turning it into a byproduct that's actually doing a better job.
Right.
Like the work you're putting into it is just like monumental to like, I mean, anything we're drinking out of right now. It's like we're talking about the zero carbon.
Yeah. So so this beer that Chad brought over is from Dogfish Head, and this is essentially it's a carbon neutral beer. Verified by the Indigo Project. And that's a completely different tangent.
Yeah,
but
shout out to Danny for bringing us that from Delaware. Appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, so this beer represents carbon neutral agriculture and carbon neutral processing for a large scale craft brewery industry. And Dogfish Head is one of like the best ones. They're ahead of the curve when it comes to sustainably sourcing their ingredients to grow beer. And so like when they slapped this on the table, I was like, oh my gosh. I know that beer. I've been reaching this, and that beer is very familiar.
I will say that whenever Sage saw that, he did start to fanboy a little bit about it.
Gosh,
Nerd
yeah,
out.
that's one of my products will be that to somebody 10 years from now.
And
That's
yeah.
what I'm assuming.
And that's what we look forward to seeing, you know, that growth in 10 years from now. You know, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
The cool thing about, you know, you doing this organic thing is not just because it's the right thing to do, which I feel like, you know, it is, but also you're partnering, like you mentioned, didn't realize that circle existed, right? You're taking those different products, to your point, they're waste for these other companies, right? And we've seen that in the beer industry. Like they'll take their spent grains and then we'll, you know, give them to the cattle or something, the farm next to them, which I think is just a really cool way of seeing it. But you're putting in so much extra work to make this a better product and a better place, realistically, like a better world if you're going to go all weird about it, but like a better place because of all of the work that you're putting in, instead of just doing it the cheap and easy way, right? And then which, you know, don't feel like that's probably the right way, but it is, you should be very proud. I mean, that's really, really cool, man.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate it, but you know what's crazy? I feel like it's old hat. I feel like it needs to be done. Like everybody should do it this way, and it's kind of confusing when you see other farmers doing it different ways, and you see that it's not sustainable. Like, you mean, look at what happened with the Dust Bowl. And what's happening in California with the water shortages.
Like the consequences of then the past is kind of like working to our favor now because we're seeing the consequences of what they were going through.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. And I hate that it's a moral like decision. Like organic's better. No, it should be the standard.
Right.
Right. Like
Agreed.
I shouldn't be like I do not feel like I'm taking the high road. I feel like I'm taking the harder road. And I feel like it's worth it, but it should be just a standard across the board.
And that's where it comes down to, is that you're taking the harder road.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you know, whenever you're wanting to make money, fast, you know, quick turnaround on products, that makes the money. But, I mean, I didn't know anything about organic, you know, whenever, you know, as a kid or anything like that. I grew up eating, you know, GMO stuff.
It didn't really exist when we were kids.
Yes.
And if it did, it was like too expensive and we couldn't afford it.
We didn't live in California
But-
when this was happening. Yeah.
Or like organic grass-fed beef and stuff like that. Your organic vegetables, they all taste better.
Well-
they just taste better.
And here's a quick segue just from agriculture and what I've learned. Nutrients cost money.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is actually, it seems harder. It's saving me money because I'm taking nutrient analysis from this poop I'm taking and composting from the farm, and I'm amending it with things like coffee, which is high in nitrogen. Things like, you know, spent food and spent grains that have carbon and have bacteria that's going to help break the stuff down. Nutrients cost money, and let me tell you, the cheap mass-produced food, just like mass-produced cannabis, it's not going to have the same benefits.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially shorting the nutrients down the line, just like the food cycle. You know, that's we can get into a completely different segue, but that it's better. Organics equals more inputs that have more available nutrients to make a better product, a better plant.
I think we are starting to see that now, and I'm not saying everywhere, and it is kind of, it's a moral dilemma, I think, is how you put it, right? Like some people see it, believe it, but you also go to these restaurants, right? Like I can't remember the last time I went to a Chili's, not because it's not good. Like I like Chili's, but like I prefer like the fresh, like mom and pop place around the corner that is always going to be new and different and interesting and good. You're helping someone that's local, but you're also knowing where it comes, like you know where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
You know their practices and the people that they are, and I think that is somewhere we're kind of going, at least in, you know, I think Fort Worth for sure, but you know, hopefully as a country we're starting to see that as being somewhat important to where it's a direction where you need to head, right?
Yeah, and I think that would help not only me, because it's not just about me and the farm and what we're trying to do, but it's actually going to help agriculture and cannabis in general. Because the more that you realize that we're all connected, old Jack White song, Connected by Love, on Boarding House Reach. If we're all connected, the better we're going to be, because we realize, okay, well, the little guy who's farming in the garden and the big guy who's farming commercially, organically, we need to support them somehow, because it all comes down to what we eat and who we are after we eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I got a question for you. What strains are you growing?
Okay. So currently I'm growing 3 different strains. Both of them are CBG. All 3 of them are cannabis plants. One of them is a CBD plant that's Hawaiian Haze, and I use that for a pre-roll blend that I put into one of the products here that will be released
I cannot wait.
in the next couple weeks. And the other 2, one of them is called the White, which is a CBG based on my genetics. I call it CBG2A. And then the other one's called the Stem Cell, which is called CBG1A in my genetic portfolio.
Okay. And the White is the one that I've seen at Thrive,
That's
correct?
the only one I've released to the public right now.
Gotcha.
Because its cannabinoid level was out of this world based on like Texas growing. And so I'm really, really proud to have that in my portfolio. And I'm really proud to see what I can do and express it next year.
Yeah, me and Chad were really excited whenever we saw that it released. We just went out and had to get it.
So when it released, y'all went to Thrive, picked it up.
Yeah.
Did you try it?
I smoked it. Yeah.
What do you think?
It was really nice.
What'd
It was
you-
smooth. It smelled really good.
It was really mellow
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, so let me just tell you, I'm a type of guy that wakes up at 5:30 in the morning and I'll meditate for 20 minutes and then I'll do some workouts and then I'll smoke one of those and then I'll jump into my office or jump out into the farm and feel energized. Did you guys feel that?
I'm gonna have to do that
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Like do
because
some
I
self
smoked it
meditation in the
before.
morning.
Like I was just like chilling one night. I'm like, you know what? Now's a good time. I just wanted to mellow out.
Yeah. And quite a bit. I mean, I have plenty of. I have plenty more to continue because those canisters. What was it, like 3 or 4 buds and
It's
like pretty big?
3.5 grams. It's an eighth.
Yeah,
I give
quite
an
bit.
eighth. And I think it's a good value. I don't know. I
was a good
negotiated the price with Thrive, and I feel like that's a pretty solid value for an organic product that has an eighth of cannabis in it.
So my only experience with like hemp flower was with a
see the quality it is now. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this was 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So mine was with a company called or a farm called Tweedle Farms up in Oregon. So I was able to order that, and before that we had flour. Before we had flour here, I was able to ship that in.
That's so cool.
And they were doing a lot of CBD, and they had a couple products with CBG, and I didn't know anything between the two. But what I found was compared to like smoking a pre-roll for me, I have a little water pipe.
Ooh.
And I felt like I was able to take a little bit more in, and I just had this like, and it's weird. So I had smoked weed in the past, like actual like traditional marijuana, right?
Yeah.
And that gives you that high, weird, kind of psychedelic feeling, right?
Yeah.
What I got out of smoking like CBD or CBG or whatever it was at the time was I felt like this rush of kind of almost calming.
Oh yeah.
And it was weird because I'm like, okay, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm gonna feel like. Is it gonna make me feel high? And it didn't make me feel high, but I just felt like all my stress, all the little knots in my back and everything just kind of went away.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, this stuff is freaking awesome. And I'm not speaking for your product. I haven't had it yet, but just in general with this industry, it's amazing what I've felt just by trying some of these products out. And how it actually affects my body versus.
I want to say, by the way, though, on the episode where we were talking about this, and he mentioned that he was getting stuff from Portland, we talked about how shitty it was that he was getting stuff from out of state. Not because he's a shitty person, which he is, but like because like at the time that was the only thing you could do. Right? They had just cut off pre-rolls and leaf, and we were talking about how it's doing away with farm like. You're missing that step, right? Between the shop and you, right? Yeah, open it up, please. Please do.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I tried it before, and then people started selling leaf here, and then the governor tried to ban it, right?
Right.
And then they had that lawsuit injunction and had that lifted.
And that's still actually going on until February.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How are they getting around it then?
I do not know what the injunction actually entailed, but it was technically unconstitutional for them to rule against that, and
Yeah.
it was ruling against the 2018 Farm Bill. And
Yeah.
that's
Right.
one of the judges in Austin filed that motion, I believe.
Got it.
But that's a good point. And the obstacles, let me tell you, here in Texas, 2018, federally go ahead, green light, go grow hemp. You know what it took for Texas to get on board? 2 years of developing
Right.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
And let me tell you guys, not just to toot the certified organic horn again, but growing food, there's more audits and more of a paper trail than me growing cannabis this year.
Really?
Absolutely. The Texas Department of
Wow.
Agriculture, and no shame on them. I know they have a very tight budget, but dude, it was more strenuous for me to get that certification than to actually have my farm of 3 acres of cannabis inspected.
Real quick, got a question on Facebook Live. So, Madeline wants to know the thoughts on the differences between Delta 8 and Delta 9 and the comparisons.
Gosh.
And also if you're crafting the flower instead, if that's a loophole.
Okay. Well, Madeline?
Yes.
Madeline, Delta 8 and Delta 9 are 2 different cannabinoids. Essentially, Delta 8 is a synthesized cannabinoid, which is a precursor to Delta 9. Delta 8 does not exist in nature. What happens is that's lab created. Just like I said, CBG is a molecule that can be isolated in a plant. Those are one of those molecules that gets turned into a Delta 8 product. Delta 8 gets sprayed on to flower because that doesn't exist on a flower molecule. You got to think every plant produces Delta 9 as a finished product. So that's like a THCA acid. So yeah, I hope that answers your
So
question.
that's the loophole. Like they're
The loophole is Delta 8 is synthesized.
They're
And,
synthesized,
it's,
okay.
and it's not the same molecular
Yeah.
structure as Delta 9.
Well, okay, so back in mid 2000s, so there was a thing called JWH 018. It was a synthetic
K2?
right. It was
Yeah.
the original K2.
Yeah.
If you look at the molecule, it looks very similar to I guess a THC Delta 9 molecule.
Yeah.
And what they were doing to get around it, because as the feds would come down on it, they would alter it, and they would alter it, and they would alter it, and now we've got this really bastardized molecule that makes people
It's
go crazy,
dangerous,
right?
isn't
Yeah,
it?
oh yeah,
It's
straight
dangerous.
up dangerous, right?
Your brain doesn't need that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with the Delta 8, they're taking that from the plant itself and synthesizing it, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a bastardized molecule from the cannabis plant.
Gotcha.
So essentially, like I said before, CBG can be converted into technically. So as a human being, you have you have cells that like are in different locations in your body to produce different
Yeah.
hormones, different chemicals, and they turn into who you are.
right.
CBG is that exact same molecule for cannabis plants. It's
Okay.
like, okay, well, I'm in the stem, I'm going to become this cell. Or I'm in the flower, I'm going to become this cell. Or I'm under this type of photo period, I'm going to turn into CBD based on my genotypical expressions. What happens is, if you get CBG isolate, which is very easy to do with flower, it's the beautiful trichomes, and after a couple alkaloid and acid reactions, you can isolate that using a CO2 extraction and turn it into a product that is a Delta 8 or a Delta 9 even, just on continuing reactions and pressures and vacuums. So I don't know. I haven't really personally experienced or experimented with Delta 8 too often, but I can say that synthesized products are often adulterated with things like propylene glycol, which is
Right.
not made to be vaporized and condensed in your lungs. But I don't know. Dude, live your life.
Well,
Do your
I
thing.
know like a lot of the research chemicals that were coming out with for the synthetic marijuanas, they were taking it and putting in acetone and letting it dissolve, because it would dissolve in acetone. You spray the plant down with acetone, and then the acetone would evaporate and leave the
Absolutely.
residue off, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, just thinking about that, like you don't put acetone in your body, and I know it's supposed to evaporate off, but it's got to leave some traces behind. It's got to do something, and that's kind of freaky. So,
And let me just say, the plants are living things.
Yeah.
They do not like negative stressors. And not to go completely hippie on you, but I will. They respond to love and life.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
respond to that. If you're like hitting them with acetone, I can tell you those plants are going to respond angrily to you over time. They're
Right.
like, you know what? We're going to kill you. Like,
Yeah.
let's figure this out because we're done with you. We're like,
So
it's
probably
bullshit.
definitely need more research on the whole
Absolutely.
Delta 8
Yeah.
versus
Absolutely. And not saying don't go do it or don't go do it. Everybody has their own life, but just get to know the person that's making it. Like
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
that's like the baseline. Get to know like who your farmer is, get to know like where this comes from. Because if it's from a trusted lab, and I work with a really good group. I actually have a retail partnership with not only Thrive, but a national group called Purely CBD. And I don't know, I didn't talk to you guys about this, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Do it to it.
Purely CBD has 63 retail locations, and they are like one of my first like big like, hey, we're on board with what you're doing and what you're growing. And so if anybody that listens to the podcast, the Funky Panther, goes to a Purely CBD in North Texas, they'll get 15% off the first 10 people that go.
So how can they find that? How can they find their locations?
So unfortunately I don't know where Purely CBDs are, but if you go to purelycbd.com, type in your nearest location, go check it out. They carry our flower like as a
That's
bulk
cool.
whole bar, and they carry a couple of our pre-roll products. And yeah, I didn't think about that until now. Sorry.
Hey,
Oh, that's
no, all
awesome, man.
good.
No, drop it on.
We-
us.
Because I was
had
like,
a-
man, like they have a good lab, so that's the
Yeah.
reason why I brought that up. They can do CBG isolate, and they make really great products. I was like, oh man,
Like anything you want to like, any other like spots you want to like bring up or
oh yeah.
Yeah, that have
So
your product.
Thrive,
Please, yeah.
obviously Trey and Lisa, like I'm really really grateful for their opportunity to like actually showcase a farm to dispensary product.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's a farm to dispensary product. I'm very grateful for them. Bloom Hemp Market off of Magnolia. That's another really awesome place. George over there has he's all about trying to support local. He's actually coming out with a green sheet application that's going to really showcase what local farms that he has there and what flower he has there. And gosh, who else is carrying it? There's a couple places in Austin called Restart CBD. They're carrying my flower come January, and also another place called CBD District, which is there off of Camp Bowie here in Fort Worth.
Oh,
Cool.
okay.
Okay.
And Tawan over there, really cool guy. He's carrying my flower, and he's really open to the farm to table type of scenario that I'm creating. And yeah, hopefully more places.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Can I get a word?
Sorry,
'Cause
sorry,
you're just
my
like
bad.
back to
My
back,
bad.
dude.
I'm
Jeez,
sorry.
Robbie.
Jesus Christ.
I've got 5 questions backed up now at this
Okay,
point.
sorry.
So
My
one
bad.
is from YouTube. One is CBD like flower the only thing that you produce? Is there like any kind of like rope or anything like that, or is it specifically bud?
Great question. So who asked?
Jesse.
Jesse, essentially what's happening in Texas is there's this bottleneck, and a way that agriculture has to survive is to make money first. And the way that you have to make money is to have the infrastructure of the market created. I am working on a couple of genetics, cultivars, that produce industrial fiber hemp. And that's the question that you're asking is if I'm producing byproducts that can be used for clothing, for
Right.
rope, for dog toys, for all these things. Jesse, I am producing oil hemp first, which is not just CBD, but CBG and other cannabinoids, so I can get into the industrial hemp game to produce fiber hemp, because fiber hemp actually produces really high THC.
Really?
And it's not compliant in Texas yet.
Huh.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to get in that space because I believe sincerely, not only if medical marijuana goes, I want to get in the space where I'm actually creating byproducts to build houses.
Yeah.
And to create a more sustainable carbon sequestering crop that can actually build versus, smoking and enjoying it and those types
Right.
of things. So long and short of it, give me about 5 years, Jesse, and we'll be having this conversation about how I built the first eco-friendly hemp house.
So it grows differently, right? Like
Oh,
it's kind of like you got your egg chickens and you've got your like poultry chickens. Like a lot of
Absolutely.
times they're going to be a little bit different.
That's a great analogy. The idea is the hemp I'm currently growing, it's still industrial hemp, but it grows like recreational cannabis.
Yeah.
I have to nourish a 5-foot bushy plant at 4-foot spacing. Industrial hemp for rope is like I just ryegrass, and I'm
Really?
harvesting rye in a combine. Yeah, it's
Wow.
completely different. It's like there's no spacing at all. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this is
So they
a
just
field
grow
of
up,
wheat.
I guess,
Yeah,
or-
just
yeah.
straight up in these beautiful fibrous stalks that are used for decortation and decortation facilities, and that's like where the industry should go.
Right.
I think we should get rid of the idea of producing monocrops like cotton and things like that and add hemp to the
Right.
rotation to decrease water usage, increase carbon sequestration, and essentially create a new industry of not depending on other countries to ship textiles.
But the cotton industry in the United States has a very strong hold with lobbyists, and that's gonna be a hard one to.
I'm not gonna. I'm saying now, I'm not holding my breath for
Yeah.
that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
All right, and this one's a question from Chad over at the Funky Panther. So
Hold on.
this was
Where's he at?
Hi, Chad has a question here.
Chad has a
And
question.
Let's go to Chad.
So you talked about the 3 strains that you grow, right? And we talked about a little bit of the differences. But what I want to know is how do they taste? What are the flavor? Do you have like some different flavor
Javier,
profiles or
can
anything?
You hand Chad one of those canisters. So the reason why I chose not only a UV protected packaging is because this is actually PET recyclable. So if you wanted to recycle this,
Oh, cool.
I'm helping the environment. But if you go ahead and scan this QR code,
If I recycle, I'm helping the environment.
absolutely you are. I'm not doing nothing.
Okay, so Chad is scanning the QR code.
All you do is once you get this product, you scan the QR code. 4 pages are to come up. They're called the certificate of analysis.
I'm curious now.
Yeah, please help yourself.
And Javier's gonna scan the QR code.
Play by play.
And I'm sorry I had to segue into this, but like I want them to understand that like my
Holy
transparency. Yeah, New Bloom Labs is a lab out of Tennessee.
That is
They
so
moved
cool.
their headquarters to Dallas once the Texas industry became legal. And if you go to page 4, I believe, it comes with a terpene analysis, which is going to describe to you the flavors and nose that you should be experiencing with my flower.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a lot of data. This is
Yeah,
some
I
cool
again,
stuff.
I want to be as transparent as possible. I want this industry to move the right way first, and I
Yeah.
want to be a pioneer in it.
So it's different for each strain that you grow? This is
Absolutely.
just the
So
one,
this
right?
is just the white.
Right.
The stem cell, which I haven't released to the public yet.
Oh my goodness.
That has a completely different terpene analysis and different COA. Both of them came back neutral and negative for pesticides and mycotoxins because
Yeah.
I didn't spray anything on my plants based on
Right.
my organic certification. And they also came back with positive, really high cannabinoid levels.
I love this. Like it gives a breakdown of the aromas, like cinnamon, hops,
Absolutely.
orange, pine, and
Earthy?
The earthy tones.
I really get that earthy hoppy
Yeah,
smell.
right.
Dude,
Yeah,
it translates
absolutely.
so well into beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's something I never really thought of until here recently, seeing some of the states that have already had legalized cannabis and whatnot, and doing those collabs with different beer companies. I was like, what are y'all doing? I mean, I get why you're doing it, but what is it going to benefit beer? So Chad and I, background, we homebrewed. We kind of stopped for a little bit, but we were homebrewing consistently
a
for
lot.
yeah.
We had too much beer back
They
then.
were. I wasn't. I
We
mean,
couldn't drink that
Yeah.
much
You
beer.
did, though?
So
I drank it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good
I would
stuff?
drink it.
We had some good stuff. Oh yeah, we had some.
Some
we
are
had some-
misses. Homebrews, 80% of homebrews
So
are misses.
we made a big mistake on trying to make sours because at the time sours
Absolutely.
were a big deal,
It's a hard
and
thing
they
to
take too long, and then they ruin all your things. And we made some good sours, but our better stuff were like the New England IPAs. We had a bomb stout that we would do a bunch of really cool stuff with, and then everyone loved the juice box. We like this
Yeah,
fruity,
Juice Box was
fruity,
great.
like it was like a oat
It was,
based.
yeah, it was a really like heavy hazy beer, but it had we basically steeped hibiscus in it.
Say what? You
Yeah.
steep hibiscus in anything and give it
Yeah.
to me.
Right, so we did a hibiscus in it, and then we put it on some freeze dried.
Strawberries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And so you get
Yeah.
that like it was basically like we called it juice box because it was like a little kid drinking
Juice
a juice
bomb.
box.
It
Yeah,
really- yeah.
so good. But after picking this up and smelling it, I'm like, all right, I get the hops. Like I get that. Like I've picked up the bag of hops and like put my nose in. I'm like
Yeah.
getting those aromas, and you really get that from that.
Speaking of hops, I was just in the Midwest this past weekend.
Oh yeah,
And I was in Fargo, North Dakota.
Fargo.
And I went to
Fargo.
this. I
Was
went to
it
this
cold?
brewery called. It was a little cold. Yeah.
Sage is he's ready.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I went to this brewery called
Absolutely,
Drecker, and so this is a double dry hopped IPA called Multiple Ectogasms. And I had
Javier's
some.
got that problem.
I got.
Yeah, we discussed that earlier.
I jizz ghosts. This is the dirty part of the
Hey, it took you. I'm gonna go ahead and say that was an hour.
That was
in.
an hour. You started off kind of strong. with, like,
Congratulations. Where the kids at? Where the kids at? Because that was right. That was perfect. There he goes. There he goes.
Their tiny hands were clapping for the ghost jizz. Jesus.
this show goes off the rails every episode.
Yeah, and it's
so.
never really because of Tim or I. It's always because of the wild card.
Well, because I black out like halfway through.
Oh
Oh
gosh,
my gosh.
it's good, right?
It's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So you said something before we started recording, and I want to make sure that we catch it again because he talked about Portland, and we talked about doing a lot of things local.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we focus on local, as we like to mention on this podcast quite a bit. But when it comes to you having the farm and growing all of these things, and then giving them, selling them on your own, and then also to local shops and stuff like that.
Sure.
Why is that important? You brought up a really cool analogy that I want to make sure that we kind of hit on with Texas, because I thought it was really, really interesting.
Absolutely. So essentially, what you have to do, and this is a joke I had prior to getting licensed and prior to getting the cannabis space, is I always observed that, man, I was going to Colorado to go enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I was going to Washington to go enjoy myself. I was going to California. And the analogy is Texas likes having ex-wives. And why? Why do I bring that analogy? I've never been married, never been divorced, but it's a pretty clear analogy with I go to Colorado because I want to go snowboard and I want to go enjoy recreational cannabis.
Right.
And I'm going to go spend my money, my hard-earned dollar in that state and leave Texas to do it and then come back a little bit, less rich and, leaving money with my ex-wife. And I'll do the exact same thing in Washington. And it's an enjoyable experience. And I don't think anything of it. And it's just one of those things like alimony. You just got to do it and you're okay with it.
I think that's so perfect because there's so many things that Texas does that it's just like, why? Like, why? We're giving money to other people outside of our city, outside of our state, outside of our group where we could really be supporting each other, right? And then just kind of like giving it elsewhere.
We know why.
Well,
It's just it's going to take some time.
I wore cowboy boots here for a reason. That's why.
It's that old mentality, and it's
If it ain't
just going to
broke,
take some
baby.
time.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So, that was one of my questions, Javier. I stopped you 15 minutes ago. It's your turn. Do you remember what that question was?
No. I'm sure I'll remember it here a little later.
Had nothing to do with the ecto guy.
So the future of CBD, CBG, the hemp industry in 5 years, what do you expect the state of Texas to be? What do you feel is going to happen?
Gosh, I think this goes back to the YouTube question that Jesse had. Essentially, what I see is medical cannabis becoming federally legal. I see tax dollars from Texas really going into that to help build infrastructure. But I see, Texas Hemp Cultivators, essentially what our goals are to do is to stabilize genetics as a business to commercial farmer, business to business relationship to produce crops that can in turn, delicious ectoplasm, that is in turn, will in turn replace the crop rotation in cotton. I see stabilizing genetics that can help produce a fiber industry. I see a niche brand that helps grow and empower other farmers to grow organically and produce something across the state to essentially be proud of. And it's essentially, and I don't want to be crazy about it, it's medicine in a way.
Also, to bring up how you were talking about how you bring in other local people to cultivate into your crop to where it's you're bringing in grapeseed and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So
there's overlap there.
So, if it's going to show people how to use outside local cultivators to take some of their stuff and to make it environmental, I think that's a big thing also.
Yeah, it's so my goal, and this is a big goal, I guess. So your question was, what's going to happen in the next 5 years? My goal is to create circular economies from different byproducts and essentially find out what overlaps there can be. I mean, guys, when I started the coffee grounds thing at the beginning of this year, the only thing that derailed me was the pandemic. There's a study out of Australia that I've been following and mimicking, where they actually got Sydney, Australia. I forgot the other town in Australia, but they literally came up with a nonprofit to recycle and capture carbon for coffee. Wow. Nobody, like, it was producing so much methane that they were measuring, and they're like, oh, why haven't we done anything about this? This is a problem. And another nonprofit came in and goes, yeah, we'll take it, and we'll turn it and compost it. We'll turn it into essentially those fire starter bricks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll turn it into that, and we'll also give them to farmers to actually create an economy within it. Starbucks doesn't do that.
No.
That's really cool.
That's mind-blowing that it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just tell you, and this is going to make me sound like a loon, but being on a farm and being with plants, you try to find solutions to, A, lower your cost and create something where you can interact with people. And let me tell you, interacting with people saying, hey, I'm going to take your waste, one man's trash, and turn it into my treasure, that's a conversation I'll always have, because you can actually create a product that you found it thrive and enjoy, and it benefits us as a whole. And that's the goal in the next 5 years is, how can I do this on a large scale? How can I help Texas create an economy out of hemp, not only with the stuff that we ingest and consume, but actually how can we create something that can restore land?
Yeah.
Or turn, what we've messed up with on landfills or messed up with oil field, like essentially derricks and things like that, put hemp on there and create textiles out of it. It's not just for consuming. It's a bigger crop than that.
Are the consequences of the Dust Bowl, like you brought up
exactly.
earlier?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. But terrible farming practices. Like, how can we bypass those things and actually create something beneficial for humanity?
In 10 years, I hope that we're able to go deeper in depth in this, and we're able to eliminate pain pills and other things that are not helping us, like killing us, you know? So I'm hoping that's...
Hey, Big Pharma is a whole different conversation that we can get into.
Yeah,
and I'd love to get into it at some point, but good Lord, that'd be like 5 episodes right there.
I think we're going the right direction, though. Like, I don't know if you've ever... I did masterclass. I started doing the masterclass.
Say what?
Do you ever
I've seen it. I've
right?
never done one.
Yeah, so I didn't either prior to COVID, but we had this time. And so I started paying for masterclass really because I want to learn how to really hone in on a good brisket, right? And
wow.
Aaron Franklin gets on there and he tells you how to really smoke some really good meat. But they've also got this other guy who I'd not ever heard of, but Ron Finley. Have you ever heard of Ron Finley?
No, I haven't.
So he's out in California. And he's all about making, I forget the term that he used, but making it cool, like making gardening cool. And he's just this dude that creates these green areas around California that were like old parks or just places that are nothing anymore, and teaching kids and people how to grow and do things. And I was like, man, how cool that he's just making it cool. You know what I mean? He's making it not like this thing that your grandma does in her backyard, but really something that you can do, learn how to do, and just understand, how you're giving back and then how it's giving back to you in that circle. Right. And so I don't know. I think it's really cool. I'm so appreciative that you came tonight and let's talking about this stuff because we're nerding out. It might not show, but we're I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this.
Gosh,
one more question though, before we wrap it up. My buddy Irvin does have a question about how you feel about pets using CBD oils, and if there's a product you recommend for pets that have seizures and pain. Is there?
Well, Irving, buddy, the idea is you have to know. I treat, this is going to sound so weird. I have a German Shepherd, and she's 2 years old. She's really athletic, and she already showing those hip issues that German Shepherds are known to have. And so I'm ahead of it because I'm very fortunate to grow a bunch of cannabis. And so I actually create my own oil. I haven't released it to the public yet, so I'm not saying go to me. But there will be a point where I have a cannabis product for pets. But I would say do your research because I'm going to sound so crazy. I try things before I give them to Sasha. I will eat her food. I will okay, this is dog food. I'm gonna try it because I want to know is this good? Is this something beneficial to her? Because I feed her sweet potatoes when I'm eating sweet potatoes. I feed her squash when I'm eating squash.
Nice, yeah.
I feed her chicken jerky as long as it's not has added products to it. I try to do the exact same transparency I put in my body. It's okay, if I can read every ingredient on there, I can trust that that's that. And so I would say do your research and find out what products are full spectrum, what products are whole plants, and what products do not use solvents and use essentially organic oils like fatty oils, because fatty oils are what uptake and we have the ability to digest the cannabinoids with those fatty oils in our system. Dogs have the exact same one. Just do your research. But don't look at a fly-by-night company. Don't go to a gas station. Don't go to a PetSmart. Go find a farm that has animals, and I can tell you that's a reflection there.
What's full spectrum? Sorry.
Full spectrum means you get everything from the plant. There's nothing isolated.
Got it.
It's
Okay.
like I make oils for my friends for their dogs, and I'll literally decarboxylate a bunch of my hemp in a giant jar in a sous vide under a certain temperature for a certain amount of time for me to get a maximum, essentially, extraction into the oil I put in there.
Got it.
Most of the time I'll use as a carrier oil, olive oil or MCT, and that's what I use for Sasha. That's what I use for my other friends' dogs and cats. And again, I don't have a retail product. Obviously, I'll pitch me, but look for your farmers that you can actually okay, well, they have animals and they're using these products for their animals. And just do your research. Obviously, organic first, and go from there.
It's funny you mention that because there's so many CBD shops now, or you see CBD or CBG or hemp or whatever, right?
Or Kratom.
Or
You know.
but
Yeah,
it's at the same places that you can find Kratom or
And
dog-
crack pipes.
and whatever you want. And
my ultimate goal,
Yeah.
and this is I haven't shared this with anybody, is I don't want a CBD retail store. I don't want a dispensary. I want essentially a yoga studio with my hemp and a meditation studio where, dude, go use this space, sweat your ass off, and then, if you want to buy weed on the way out, we're here.
Yeah.
Don't make it a one-stop shop for things that we have this and this and this. And that's what the biggest thing, that's the reason why I partner with Thrive.
Yeah.
Because they are very selective. Because Dr. Lisa wants the best products there. And
passionate. They're passionate.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you go to the CBD, the American, and I hate to say the American shamans because there's some good American shamans with good ownership. You go to big franchises, essentially CBD Plus. What are you getting?
You don't know.
You have no idea.
And it wasn't until we went to Thrive for the first time and I got a pre-roll. It wasn't yours, but you didn't have it there
that's fair.
just yet.
That's
But
fair.
at a pre-roll and I was smoking it and I actually felt calm for the first time. A lot of times you take a CBD or whatever gummy and you don't, I don't know if I felt any different or not, but after smoking one and very immediately I felt a difference. And it's a good product makes that difference.
Oh, absolutely.
A good retail space that puts good products there makes a big difference too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just really interesting.
Yeah.
So, we really appreciate you coming, Sage.
Hey, guys.
This has been so much fun.
Thanks for being so open and allowing me to be on the show.
We're going to take you up on the whole farm thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, y'all better hurry. So I harvest my last plants for the 2020 season coming up in a week.
Shit.
Christ almighty.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
You guys
man.
gotta get out of here.
We've got some conversation to have. All right. Thank you, everybody, for going out there and listening to us or watching us on Twitch, YouTube, or Javier's Facebook.
And also,
Live.
thanks for all the questions, too. I mean,
Yeah.
please, we're going to stream more like this. Ask any other questions. If you have any more questions about this, we'll go ahead and relay them over to them. But please,
If you don't
thank
already
you so much.
follow, subscribe, like us on social media. Also, you want to drop yours one more
Oh,
time?
yeah.
Please, yeah.
I'll drop the code that I gave you guys, too.
Yes.
And the code.
Yeah, so essentially, guys, if you can go ahead and my social media channels, I try to be very transparent about what I do on the farm. It's www.texashempcultivators.com, and then you can follow us at Instagram and Facebook at Texas Hemp Cultivators. And one of my retail partners, Purely CBD, they're one of the first people to carry my flower and all my CBG products and hemp products. If you go there and mention the podcast, The Funky Panther, the first 20 people that go there will get essentially a discount based on the store and what they're doing. I'm negotiating. I literally was texting that as I was going to the store, and so you can do that. But there's also a code if you go. I don't know, Chad, if you're going to drop the link later.
Yeah, we'll drop the link.
Yeah,
So
it'll
if
be
you
in our
go
description.
Funky 10 is a discount code for 10% off of another retail partner that I have is on a website that I'm going to give a link to Chad with. So.
Yeah, we'll make sure we put that all in the description for the podcast, and we'll make sure that we also put your website
Yeah.
and social media so that you can go out and find Sage and Texas Hemp Cultivators.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's a mouthful. I know. It's an
So thank
ectoplasm.
you. That's 3 beers afterward. All right, so we appreciate you. As always, everyone, stay good. I'm Chad.
I'm Javier.
I'm Tim.
And we are
the Funky Panther!
We love you, Sage. We love you, dog.